Hey, Victory Church. Welcome to our online service. I am so glad you guys are here right now. We have this just for you guys.
That's right. This week we had a guest speaker, Pastor Jason Spears. Check it out.
Man, I'm just excited to be here with you, and I hope you came with some faith and expectation for what God is going to do today. Amen? All right. Well, listen, as we're getting settled into our fall routine, next week I'm going to kick off a brand new series talking about some healthy practices that we can put into place in our lives that are going to help us spirit, soul, and body. And so I'm excited about that. That's going to kick off next Sunday. But today, man, you are in for a treat because one of my best friends on the planet, Jason Spears, is here with us from Albany, Georgia. And some of you know Jason. He pastored a church there for a long, long time. He now coaches people, leaders in ministry and in the marketplace. Man, he's got a powerful word to share, and I want to ask you to just open your hearts to him because, listen, I don't know anybody in my life that is a better encourager than Jason Spears. He encourages me, speaks life into me, blesses me every time I'm around him, and I know he's going to do the same for you. So would you give a great Colorado Victory Church welcome to my friend Jason Spears.
Oh, thank y'all so much. What a joy to be with you back again, and it's been a couple years, but man, it's good to see all of you again. I love your pastor so much. He's such a dear friend. He's a good man. And I know he's a great pastor. He loves you. And I'm just, one of the great joys and honors of my life is to be able to call him friend. And he encourages me as well. So, and man, you got the bishop and the first lady sitting here on the front row. My word. Whew. Wow, you talk about legends of the faith right here. I mean, these folks right here, like if you need some faith infused into you, just hang around them for about 10 seconds, and you'll be encouraged. And you'll get a dad joke in there, too. I guarantee you that. You'll get one of those. So, well, let's be encouraged today. I've come today to share something that's heavy on my heart for you. So I just pray that today it'll be encouraging, uplifting, and that you'll leave here different than you walked in. And so that's our prayer this morning. So when I was born, I'm 46 years old. Now, I know I don't look it, right? I know I don't look it, but hey, you know, Tom Brady is 45 years old, and he's still in the NFL. And then I look at myself on the screen, and the camera adds a couple 57 pounds. But Matt asked me last night. He goes, "Hey man, what are you wearing tomorrow?" And I was like, "Well, you want to try? You want to twin? Is that what we're going for?" I was like, "Oh, bro, I'm going Johnny Cash, man. I'm going straight Johnny Cash." Because black is supposed to be slimming, and I know I'm going to be up on that screen, so, yeah. Hey, oh, now we go the wide angle. Thanks, yeah, appreciate that. Oh, so good. Well, I was born March the 4th, 1976, in Corpus Christi, Texas. My parents had a little boy who was 6 years old, and they had me. They were drug addicts, drug dealers as well. And because their life was spiraling out of control, they packed up and moved to Nashville, Tennessee to be around family. And there came a time where when I was around 2-3 months old, my mother had OD'd on heroin. And so her recovery time was going to be lengthy, and it was going to be intense. And so my dad was just really struggling. We were homeless, living in a hotel room. And he called his sister to come over and get my brother and me. as he was under the influence. And he said, I don't know what's going to happen to me. He was going back to jail. He was in and out of jail. And so he said, I really need you to take the kids. And she was like, I can't. Like, I mean, I can take Eric, the 6-year-old, but I can't take Jason because I just had a baby myself. I can't have 2 babies in the house. It would just be too difficult. But she said, I know somebody who would be amazing to take him. And she worked with this woman who, for several years, and she said she's just one of the most sweet, kind-hearted Christian people you'd ever want to meet. And so they gave me, my dad drove me over there and gave me to the only mom and dad I ever knew. They became the only mom and dad I ever knew. Here's what happened. It was, they found out they physically couldn't have kids. And she had multiple miscarriages. And so they called their pastor over to come pray for them that God would somehow bring them a baby. And then 2 weeks later, your boy showed up on the, okay, all right. It's good to be an answer to prayer every now and then, right? Yeah. No, but that became the only mom and dad I ever knew. My dad went back to jail, and so my brother went with my aunt, and I went with this family. 3 months old, that's all I ever knew. So growing up, going to church, doing the whole thing, I've been on the front row of church since month 3. It's just the way that it's been. And I've been thankful for that. And my dad, my biological dad, I never got to meet him because he died when I was 2 years old. He was shot and killed trying to rob a pharmacy. And so I never got a chance to meet him. But growing up, I didn't know I was adopted. Had no idea. Until one day, we're outside, it's the summertime. My dad's cooking burgers. Now he was one of 9. Wait a minute, my math's not right. He had 8 brothers and 1 sister. Well, no, there was 8 of them. There was a bunch of kids, okay? So it was a bunch of boys. Listen, I'm from Tennessee. I can't add. What are you talking about? So anyway, there was a lot of them. A lot of boys and 1 sister, okay? So, but some of my uncles were over, and he's doing hamburgers. It's the summertime. We had that old charcoal red top grill, and then he had this old station wagon with the wood paneling down the side with the back seat that faced out that way, and so I remember that but it wasn't until just a few years ago actually, that I remembered what transpired on that day. I was sitting in a counseling session, and my wonderful, sweet Catholic counselor, he asked me some specific questions, and I was reminded of what happened. I forgot it for years until that moment. And then when I remembered it, it was vivid. It was like in Technicolor. It was bright, and it was painful. He was 6'5", 200-something pounds. My dad went inside and to get something for the burgers, and he leaned down to me, and he looked me dead in my little face, and he said, "You do realize that you're really not a part of this family, right?" And I was like, what? What do you mean I'm not a part of this family? I didn't know what he meant. So I went inside at 7, confused, and talked to my mom. I was like, hey, Mom, he said that I'm really not a part of this family. And she was like, what? And then like something switched in her, and she went, stay inside. You know? And she went out there and called him everything but a white man, right? I mean, she let him have it. And was like, how dare you? We were waiting until he was older to really tell him the story of where he came from and how he was. All he's ever known is that me and your brother are his mom and dad. That's it. That's all he knows. Now he has all these questions, and we're going to have to now tell him. So, but it was in that one little sentence that did this to me right here. It was my original wound. It was the first time that I can remember being cut, being hurt, and being wounded. And what that created within me was this sense of rejection and abandonment. Because I found out in the matter of 10 minutes, just on some random Saturday, that my mom and dad really weren't my mom and dad. But they are my mom and dad. But now I don't feel like I'm a part of the family because of what he just said. So that created this original wound that I now live out of from 7 years old. So imagine here's a kid who is now dealing with rejection, abandonment, and all these things. And so what the original wound does to us is it creates within us this idea that no matter what we do in life or how well that we do it, we will never, ever be enough. I'm not enough. You know, the Apostle Paul, he writes that he was given a thorn in his flesh. And many scholars have argued what that actually was for years. Right? What is that? What is Paul's thorn in his flesh? Like maybe he still had cataracts. You know, from his time when he was confronted with, you know, who he used to be, and he was a persecutor of Christians, and then he was confronted with the presence of Jesus, and that blinded him, and then he got healed 3 days later, but maybe, just maybe, he still had a little cataracts, you know, and if he lived in Colorado, apparently you can get a little something for your cataracts out here. So they've argued forever what it was, but he tells you in that passage in Corinthians, he says, I have been given a thorn in my flesh, comma, a messenger of Satan to torment me. That was his thorn in his flesh. In other words, a reminder of this. A reminder of this. That no matter what you do, no matter how well you do it, or who you accomplish it with, it doesn't matter because you'll never, ever be enough. So that's the lens that at 7 years old, I started to view the world through. Rejection, abandonment, not being enough. Now, there's 3 basic human needs that every single person has. It doesn't matter where you are, how old you are, where you come from, where you live on this earth. It's global. It's a global truth. Everybody has this need to know that they are worthy to be loved. Not for anything that they do, not for what's happened to them, not for where they've been, what they've done, who they've done it with, good, bad, or ugly. Everybody on this earth needs to know that they have intrinsic value that lets them know that no matter what, you're worthy to be loved. I love you just because you're you. That's a need, right? That's a need that we all have. But there's something that happens when this right here has not been healed. When the original wound has not been healed, we'll live out of this reality, this false reality that we're not enough, and then it causes us to feel like we're not worthy to be loved. That there's this guilt or shame that rests upon us. You know, guilt and shame are awful. Guilt says that, okay, I've done something bad. Okay, that's what guilt feels like. Shame feels like I am bad. Something's wrong with me. Whether it's something that I did or something that was done to me, we deal with this shame stuff. You know, like I can't help the fact that at 12 years old, I was sexually abused by a man who lived down the street. I can't help that. So now, growing up as a kid, you look at and go, okay, so 7, 12, you know, my dad died when I was 14. So you lose your father's voice, right? So there's all of these things that are happening that make me feel like, man, I'm really not worthy to be loved because I'm living out of guilt and shame. I'm living out of I'm not good enough. Rejection, abandonment, my parents didn't want me, you know, all those things. The family that I have don't want me. But so this has to be healed. But many times we suppress it so much that we can't even remember what it was. Right? So the second thing that we deal with that is a need that all of us have is belonging. Everybody needs somebody sometime. I got some of y'all in here. Some of y'all remember that song. I'm not going to try to sing it, but you know, right? But no, seriously, we all need people. We were made for community, for connection, you know? But the problem then is when I don't feel worthy to be loved in and of myself, like I don't, because I don't feel like I'm enough, because this hasn't been healed. You know, Jesus was asked the question, what's the greatest commandment in the world? You know, like what is the greatest commandment? And he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, or strength, from Deuteronomy chapter 6, from Deuteronomy. It's the Shema. That's what the Hebrews prayed every morning. 6, 4, and 5. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. He said the second one's like it, though. Love your neighbor as yourself. Right? So then, like, when I don't feel worthy to be loved, I'll try to find it in this group of people right here. There was an Icelandic bus tour. Talk about a sharp turn right. Here we go. So we're like, whoa, bro, where are we going? We're going to Iceland. There was 53 seats on this bus tour. All of them were full. The bus driver stopped at this one place, and everybody kind of got out. He got gas. They went inside, got, food, everything, whatever. And he gets back into the bus. Everybody's on the bus. They take off. And have you ever been driving and felt like, I forgot something? Have you ever, even worse, I forgot someone? Like, have you ever done that? How many parents are in the room here? You've had kids before, more than one, right? You know what I'm talking about. Listen, when I pastored a church on a Wednesday night, you know, at the time, like I had 3 kids at the time, and my middle daughter, Jaden, she was just this little bitty, cute, sweet thing, and she just graduated high school this year. Oh, my word. But when she was 6 years old, she was in the kids' church area. Well, I talk to everybody, and, so I lock up, and I thought she'd already gone. I'm locking the church down, turn the lights off, set the alarm. I'm driving home. I get a phone call from the cleaning crew. Hey, Pastor, did you know Jaden is here? I was like, what? I'm like, oh my word. So I turned around real quick and I ran back in, and she has she's just this cute little kid, and she's just the sweetest heart, and she has little tears running down her face, and she said, Dad, you left me. And I was like, no, I didn't. I guess that was her original wound, right? My dad left me at the church. You didn't care. So she's like, oh, Dad, you left. I was like, no. Because they said because they went in this one little room to play, she'd fallen asleep. So the lights were out. She just stayed asleep. So they came in right after I left. So, I was only gone like 5 minutes. But I turned around and come back. She's like, you left me. And I said, no, baby. Well, I thought we were playing hide and seek. And you won. Man, you're the winner. Let's go get ice cream, So she's like, okay. All right, there you go. And she's the middle child, right? So that just did wonders for her. How many of you were like the firstborn in your family? The firstborn in your family? Yeah. Uh-huh. And like how many of you are the babies of the family? Yeah. Oh, look at all these babies of the family. They're like, yeah, I'm the baby of the family. Yeah, uh-huh. So, well, some of y'all are like, well, what about me? I was the middle child. Nobody cared about you anyway, man. Sorry. But we love you here at Victory. We do. We love you, and we care about you. And so, no. Well, this bus driver had forgotten someone. He's like, I have forgotten somebody. And he's 30 minutes down the road. He's in Iceland. This was an international, there was people from all over the world on this bus tour. And he stops and he pulls over and he starts going down the aisle and he's looking. He counts the right amount of people, but he's like, I'm totally missing somebody. Turns the bus around, they go back. And he's like, all right. On his way back, he calls the place. He's like, hey, can you go look for a short, beautiful Asian woman who speaks very good English? Please, go around your store, look for her outside. She's probably freaking out. They call him back 10 minutes later. Hey, we don't see anybody who fits that description. So he's driving. He's just driving back. He's like, all right, everybody, we're looking for a short, beautiful Asian woman who speaks very, very good English. Now, let's go find her. Come back to the bus in 10 minutes. We'll all come back here. So they can't find her. He said, all right, everybody back on the bus. So he gets everybody back on the bus, and he has this little clicker with him. So he's like, click, 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 click. He's like, everybody's back on the bus. Nobody's coming. He's clicking everything, and he comes down. And then he looks at this little lady who has a hat on. And he's like, I've got the right amount, but she's not here. Well, then he looks underneath her hat, and he said, ma'am, please stand up. And she stands up. He said, could you take your hat off, please? It was the short, beautiful Asian woman who spoke very good English that they were all looking for. So she was out there looking for herself. She's like, where is this short, beautiful Asian woman who speaks very good English? I don't know. He said, why didn't you say anything? We've been looking for you forever. She said, well, with the description that you gave, I never assumed you would have been talking about me. And isn't that the truth about us sometimes? because we haven't had this healed, no matter what anybody says about us, we'll always feel like that. And so what happens is we don't feel worthy to be loved, but then we try to find it in belonging. So we try to find it in connection, in a person, in a marriage, in a church, on a sports team. We try to find that sense of belonging. But what happens is when your wound isn't healed, ultimately what will happen and occur is that it will devolve into you trying to get from people the love that makes you feel worthy. And it will never, ever work, because it's people who hurt you in the beginning, and it's not people who can heal you. Only God can do that. So when you try to look for healing in other people, it's not going to happen. Yes, they can encourage you, they can be kind, they can help with some things, but it's not going to happen. And then what will ultimately happen is, because this isn't healed, we will begin to bleed onto people who never cut us. The third thing that all of us, third need that we all have and share, is purpose. This need to know that I can put my hand to something and be productive and give something to this world. So if you don't have this healed, you'll always feel like you're not enough. You won't feel worthy to be loved. You'll try to find it in these people, and then when you can't, you'll go over here to your purpose. I'm good at business. I'm good at coaching. I'm good at, whatever it is that I put my hand to. And then what we find is we lose ourselves in trying to be the absolute best that we can be at this. But at the end of the day, no matter how much money you make, no matter how many business deals you close, no matter what scenario fits you in your life, it will never, ever be enough, because at the end of the day, you won't feel like you're enough. And so then it's just this vicious cycle that continues. I was a pastor for a long time. And for the majority of my life and the majority of my ministry, this was not healed in me. So imagine trying to lead people the best you know how. I didn't know any of this stuff, right? I'm just trying to love people and preach the word and share with people and try to make people's lives better on this earth and know that there's a greater hope for tomorrow, right? But I didn't even know that I was worthy to be loved myself. And so because of that, I tried to, because I know what that feels like, I did everything I could to ensure that people understood that they were, even though I didn't feel that way. And so then, so my purpose was, the ministry. My belonging was my family and the community that I was involved in. But it was all trying to fill this need right here, to know that maybe if I preach good enough and we have a big enough church and everybody loves people and we love God, then maybe that'll fix me. Because there was always something off, because I never felt enough. But it wasn't until in that counseling session that day when I remembered when I was 7 and what he spoke over my life and what he said, that the healing process began. So how do you get this healed, right? How does this happen? Well, you have to change the way you think. If you change the way you think, you'll change the way that you live. Because you think, you feel, you say, you do. That's the progression of how our life changes. What does the scripture say? As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. That's what you live out of. So whether it's conscious or subconscious, if this has not been healed, you will ultimately live out of that. And your vision in your life will be skewed because you'll always feel like you're not enough. But if you start changing the way you think, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Right? So what has to happen then? There has to be this one word right here. Forgiveness. I went through a process and this journey of forgiveness because I had all of these thoughts in my life. I had all of these things that I would say in my therapeutic sessions and with trusted friends and pastor friends that that were so gracious and kind to me, and people who walked with me through all this. Like, I just had all these negative things about me. And that's why the scripture says that's why you need to take every thought, what? Captive. Right? My therapist, he was great. He's just awesome. I would say, man, I'm this, I'm that. And he was writing all this stuff down. He took that piece of paper off and he handed it to me and said, these are all the things you said that you were. He said, now, can you envision your 7-year-old self? I'm like, yeah, of course I can, because my 80-year-old mother still posts Throwback Thursday on Facebook of all these little kid pictures of me, and I can't forget what I looked like then, okay? It's like, and he pulls up this little chair, and he said, envision your 7-year-old self right there. Start telling him those things. Tell him he's awful. Tell him he's terrible. Tell him he's this and that. I'm like, no way. He said, then why do you tell your 38-year-old self that? He said, you're living out of that. And so the process began for forgiveness. So I had to go all the way back to forgive my mom and dad, right? I couldn't look at my biological father in his face to tell him that because he died when I was 2. I met my biological mom for the first time in my life. And she had told me, she said, Jason, could you ever forgive me? And I said, oh, I've already done that. And so I was like, yes. And see, sometimes we get so, this is so fresh even years later, because when this begins to happen, and in full disclosure, in all honesty, and as authentic as I can share, I didn't do it for her. I did it for me. But the byproduct of that was that she was able then to begin to forgive herself. Then I had to go through the process of forgiving my uncle, who reached down and said, you do realize that you're really not a part of this family, right? He had died several years previously, so I wasn't able to share with him or to tell him or to look at him and say that. But what I had to do was, just for me, like it wasn't good enough to just say it in my head to be like, okay, I forgive you, bro, whatever. But it was like, if you really want to begin to do this, just remember this, FBI. To confront issues and things and people from your past, you have to share your feelings, the behavior, and the impact of it. And so I was able to just say out loud, like, you know what? I forgive you because you made me feel like, as a little kid, that I I wasn't a part of the family. I dealt with rejection and abandonment. And not like, oh, I felt sad when you said this. No. It's got to be specific. Shared, I would just say it. The behavior of a grown man telling a child that he's really not a part of the family. That behavior impacted me in such a way that I know that I bled on people who never cut me. However, I'm now today releasing and forgiving you from those words, from that day, from that action. And now I know that deep down inside, I really am enough. I know I am worthy to be loved. I know that I do belong to a people. I know that I do have a purpose. And then we begin then to fulfill the greatest commandment, which is what? To love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, your strength. And then to love your neighbor as, So just a couple questions for you today. Do you know what your original wound was or is? Do you know that? Have you been healed from it? You know, back in March, my biological aunt, my biological dad's sister, got in touch with me. She's on Facebook. She said, Jason, I've talked to her once or twice in my life. She said, I really need to speak with you. Please call me. She called me to tell me that my biological sister was found in her tub with needles in her arm. She thought she was shooting heroin, but it was fentanyl. And she overdosed and died, leaving behind 4 children. She was 44 years old. I called my biological brother, and he and I have met several times and have had our kids together. And I remember eating dinner with his family one time, and for the first time, and his wife, she was like, this is weird because y'all look exactly alike. You have the same mannerisms. Oh my word. But my aunt told me, she said, I've got something I found. We just sold the house and moved to Florida. They retired, and I guess that's what everybody does. And so I guess out here would be Arizona, right? That's where everybody goes? Yeah, Arizona, yeah. So she said, I found a letter that my brother, your dad, had written you right before they gave you away. Because initially his thought was, and I never knew this, his thought was, just let them, if they're willing to just keep him for now until I can get myself straight. Because I'll never let her, my biological mom, come and get him. He'll be with me and I'll raise him if I have to by myself. She said, but I have a letter and I want to send it to you. And I brought it today just to share with you. It might be on the screen as well. This is 46 years old. It says, even though you cannot speak and tell me how you feel, I can see it in your eyes that your love for me is real. I haven't known you very long, but I'll tell you, I'm very glad for you to be a son of mine and for me to be your dad. When you grow up and have to choose between one or the other, just remember you're never, ever alone. There's dad, mother, and brother. I love you, Jason. She told me, she said, I thought I'd lost it. I was saving it to be able to give to you one day. After he died, I wanted to be able to give it to you when you're old enough to understand. And I said, I think you found it at the right time. Because you know what? What I always wrestled with was, why did my dad really not want me? But 46 years later, I was reminded from a man who died 44 years ago that he always did. So, for you today, maybe you haven't had this healed yet. Maybe you wrestle with this every single day of your life. What was always true about me was that I was always wanted. And so whatever that might be for you, all you have to do, you know, your father wrote you a letter too, 2,000 years ago. And in it, he says, you are fearfully and wonderfully created. You are my masterpiece, created for something good. I have adopted you into my family. Right? So no matter what this is, you can be reminded today what has always been true about you, and is that you have always been fully loved from the beginning. So, for those of us in here who have not had this healed yet, let's identify it. Let's deal with it. Let's talk about it. Let's have it healed and scarred over. And scars are a beautiful thing. Don't ever hide them. Don't ever hide your scars. Because scars are a reminder that you've been healed, and they're a reminder of where you never want to go again. So don't let that little thorn in your flesh, the messenger of Satan, try to keep you off track with guilt and shame. So, how long has this been an issue for you? And my last question for you is this: how long do you want that to continue? So let's begin that process and end it today, okay? So let's just take a moment right now. Lord, as we are identifying original wounds, as images and memories are resurging and coming back to us this morning, I just pray right now for all of your peace to come and fill the hearts of your people. So as we begin to name those things, the feelings, the behavior, the impact of it, as we begin to forgive and release those people who did and said all of those things to us, that's where the healing begins. So Lord, I pray that in this sacred space, in this moment right here, that all of us would sense your peace and your love and your grace. And for some of us, we're going to embark on this healing journey that will change the course of our life and our family's life and for generations to come. So Lord, I pray for your healing. I pray that your word would resonate with us that said, I came to heal the brokenhearted and bind up their wounds. I thank you that today you are healing broken hearts and you're binding wounds, and that we'll never, ever be the same again. And we'll be able then to look back and go, yeah, that was my wound. That's what I've lived out of for so many years, but now I'm healed from it. I'm whole. I'm delivered. I'm set free. Now I can do the same for other people. So I just speak the peace of God over your people today. And I just pray for the blessing of God to rest upon them in Jesus' mighty name.
What a good message, guys. If you need to go back and take notes, we have it in our app specifically for that.
That's right. And if this message encouraged you in any way, which I'm sure it did, we've all been at different stages and places in our life, share it with a friend. Maybe you know someone who's going through this right now, that this message could really encourage them. Don't hesitate. Send it to them now. And we hope to see you next Sunday in person at 10 a.m. or right back here at Victory Church Online.